All right. So on today's Suited Shootist installment, there was something that was just kind of a thought that struck me driving around yesterday and earlier today that I definitely think is worth addressing because, like many things that I try and cover on the channel, it's something that is very easily overlooked whenever you're on this journey of self-defense craft and all that kind of stuff. And this is really an important one, and it's the fact that it is very easy to get caught up in kind of the romance of all of this, because a lot of what we practice on its surface can be kind of sexy and cool and make you feel kind of like a badass. The idea is that ultimately what we are trying to do is prepare ourselves to prevail over evil. Essentially, there's somebody out there who is trying to impose their will on you, and the idea of everything that we practice is to be able to resist that. It's easy to get caught up. And I found myself guilty of this as well. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in the training and the forums and all the interaction about being able to shoot better and fight better and walk around like the as much as I hate the term sheepdog, that your actual life can get neglected. And this happens on a couple of different levels. One that I've briefly talked about previously are the ones who let their firearm dictate their lifestyle. The people who say, oh, well, if I can't carry a gun, I'm not going to go there. That's your business. You live your life how you choose. Personally, I like to travel. I like to travel places where I can't take my gun. I've had some very enriching experiences in those places. Somebody that talks a lot about this is Greg Ellifritz over at Active Response Training, and I'm going to link to his page. You absolutely need to go and read his travel stuff as well as everything else. He's a wealth of free information, and really does not get enough credit for the content that he puts out. Something as simple as concerts, museums, things like that. The cultural pursuits, for the most part, tend to prohibit firearms, if not by law, then by policy. So that's just something to consider. And I'm going to have to see if I can find who initially said it, but there was another Facebook post out there that addressed this and basically said the firearm for me is supposed to be an enabler, not a limitation. And I think that's really a great way to approach it. But even further than that, it's very easy to get caught up in the preparation for that shot at the title, the big show, whether that be the active killer event that seems to be the extreme example that everybody goes to, or whether it's even just the defensive encounter in the Walmart parking lot, or the stop and rob stick up situation, whatever it is. People get so wrapped up in the preparation for this fractional event that they forget to actually live their lives. It's a trap that I fell into and I'm still kind of trying to dig myself out of. But about a year and a half, 2 years ago, the defensive pursuits were pretty much everything. It was everything that I talked about, read about, wrote about, and it felt great because I felt like I was building myself up to be more capable in all this, but I realized I was neglecting my actual life. I wasn't having the interactions that make life a fulfilling experience. And so it's just something that I wanted to put out there is just be cognizant of that. Is ultimately, I think that all of us get into this for effectively the same reason, and it's the fact that we acknowledge that the world has the capacity to be hostile and unforgiving. But that's not inherently what it is. In the same token, the world has a wealth of amazing experiences, sights, sounds, tastes, that you owe it to yourself to take in as much of that as possible, because we only kind of get one shot at this whole thing. And so for as much as I'm never going to begrudge somebody putting in the time to better themselves as a self-defender, I would suggest that just make sure that you're also putting in the time to better yourself as a person. Craig Douglas talks about being multidisciplinary, and primarily in his context, he's talking about having pistol skills, empty hand skills, verbal skills, etc. But when you look at the 12 Labors Conference that he just launched in December, that he's hosting with Jeff Gonzalez, they're talking about a much broader sense of being well-rounded. And even if you go back to the ancient warrior cultures, you had the samurai who were writing poetry and doing floral arranging and things like that had no direct correlation to their capability on the battlefields. You had, even in ancient Rome, you had these high military figures who were philosophers as well. And so just make sure that the life that you've built is valuable enough, that there's enough substance to it, that it justifies all the effort that you're putting in to protecting it. Because it's very easy to get too far down that rabbit hole and get so hyper-focused that you can't see the forest for the trees. And again, it's your life, you live it how you want. But I bring this up because it's a trap that I've fallen into myself, and nobody called me on it. Well, no, I take that back. Eventually. And thankfully, it didn't get to the point where it was a problem. But it was this crystallizing moment of just take a step back and reevaluate, because it's one of those things where, are you actually just living the same day over and over and over again, or are you living your life because you live every day, you only die once? And so do you want it to be something that you're getting something out of? And ultimately what that balance is going to depend on who you are, your lifestyle, your preferences. But I definitely felt like it was something that not a lot of people really talk about, so I wanted to put it out there. Obviously, stay safe, make good choices, but that's not to say don't take risks. Just make sure that they're calculated, and make sure that the risk versus reward is out there. So I'm going to put a challenge out, and feel free to comment or whatever, whether you're looking at this on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. What's one non-firearms or combatives related thing that you're doing regularly to improve your quality of living? Not everybody's answer is going to be the same, and not everybody's answer is going to resonate with anybody else, but take the time to do something to try and be as well-rounded as possible. I hope you found it useful. I'm thinking that starting next month, since it's going to be the 1-year anniversary of the Suited Shootist, that I'm probably going to start up that kind of Being Basic series. The feedback that I've gotten is that the written content seems to have a slightly broader reach and be a little bit more well received. So I think I'm going to go back to that temporarily. Maybe work a little bit more on blending the two, but I think that's kind of what we can expect coming up. So like, subscribe, share, please. If you found this useful, it's always great to get that kind of feedback. And yeah, keep an eye out for more. If anybody is going to the Rangemaster Tactical Conference next month, let me know. I'd love to link up and look forward to where this all takes us. So make sure you've got a life worth defending.